Good afternoon. Welcome everyone to the Home Learning Transition webinar. Hope you can hear me. Thank you for joining us today. I'm just going to wait a couple of minutes just to see there are people still joining, so I'll just hold on just for a minute. So thank you and good afternoon. Just before I start, a couple of housekeeping pointers really on the sort of etiquette of webinar meetings. Could you just check your microphones are turned off? That just improves the sound quality. I'm joined today by Martin Gilchrist Burnard from Orpheus College and Jacob Prytherch from Glasshouse College. At the end of the session, there'll be an opportunity to ask questions. So if you would like to type in your questions in the chat box, so on the right hand side of your screen, at the bottom there's a little chat box. If you type your questions in there, Yolo Jacobson is kindly assisting me actually by moving the slides along, and at the end we'll read out the questions and we'll do our best to answer them. So thank you, Yolo. Okay, the purpose of the webinar is to introduce you to Natspec's new Quality of Home Learning website, to share with you some of the exciting material in relation to transition support for the learners in their own homes. And we hope this webinar provides you with some helpful tips for transitioning in and out of college. The Natspec Quality of Home Learning project came about as lockdown happened. Next slide. We all needed to find new ways to deliver our provision. The Home Learning project commenced to help colleges move from a crisis response after a sudden closure of colleges to a more considered approach. What does quality of provision look like in each of these key areas? And how do we go about achieving quality? So the 6 key themes: the learning material, monitoring progress, working with families, wellbeing support, therapy, and transition in and out of college. Just so people are aware, most of the sessions have now happened. The final webinar is working with families and is on Thursday the 11th, so there's still time to register for that webinar if you would like to. All the webinars will be available on the Natspec YouTube channel, and I believe 2 are already up there if you want to have a look at those. So what began as a COVID-19 project may actually have a lot of lasting value. Supporting learners who can't attend college, perhaps during periods of ill health, offering a more blended learning approach, helping learners who want to maintain skills during holidays, involving parents and carers more fully in their young person's learning, and encouraging independent learning for those students who are capable of it. We deliberately steered away from creating a massive repository of resources and instead tried to drill down to identify the characteristics of what is effective practice. We wanted to provide a framework against which others could evaluate their own provision and some guidelines on effective practice that would be relevant to many different providers working with learners with SEND. We've also included some examples of resources and put forward by the Natspec colleges who took part in the project. Everything presented on these web pages came about directly from the practitioners working remotely to support learners with SEND in their own homes. Around 70 practitioners worked over 3 weeks across the 6 themes to come up with the guidance. They gave their time freely at a time when they were extremely busy to work collaboratively on this project. They're all named on the various web pages, but we'd like to thank them publicly for their generosity. So now we're going to have a look at the Natspec Home Learning website. The website, which will come up onto your screen any minute now. And you can go into the website at any time when you've, sorry, I'm just waiting for the website to come up. It's coming, it should come up on your screen shortly and you'll get the home page. I was just going to take a quick tour around the home page. Okay, it's loading now. So on this, you can see already along the tabs, so the 6 key areas: learning material, monitoring progress, families, wellbeing therapy, and transition in and out. At the bottom of the page, we have got the navigation section. The navigation section here will take you, if you go into transition in and out resources, takes you directly to the resources that we've put, just so it saves you searching through at a later date. And also you can search, if you look right at the bottom, resources can also be researched by cohort. So if you wanted something for learners with ASD or PMLD, then you can go straight into those. Okay, so for this webinar, we'll go directly to the transition section. Thank you. The materials in this section have been developed by and for transition staff who are working with young people with SEND, transitioning in and out of the FE colleges during the COVID pandemic. They should help practitioners focus on the quality and effectiveness of remote transition practices and processes. We started by discussing what good quality transitioning looks like. The normal face-to-face assessments and the delivery removed. How are we ensuring that students have a high quality experience when they're not in college? Examples provided for effective practice are from the colleges involved here. These include communication trackers, admission trackers, student-friendly booklet, information on QR codes and staff profiles. When looking at the documents, just be careful in terms of using them in your own settings. All the colleges are different and you're likely to need to adapt the resources to make them fit for purpose for your students and for your families. So these were the people involved in the project, which was absolutely brilliant. They were really good. So transition into colleges. We decided to present the transition in as an audit tool and a checklist. Virtual meetings instead of face-to-face contact, virtual multidisciplinary meetings, ensuring as much information is gathered as possible. Young people involved by sending activities to their home, by providing information and by regular contact with the young person and their family. We move through the sections and during that time I'm going to ask Martin and Jake about their experiences. The first section, the assessing potential students, the contents here 1 to 18 can easily be used as a checklist. Berkenshaw, Sense and Camp Hill colleges have developed some resources that help track the vast amounts of information required for working in a remote world. And Martin's going to tell us about how Orpheus are coping with the visual world of admissions and the biggest challenges to transitioning into college at this time. Okay,
Thank you,
Martin.
Ruth. Thank you. The college has been successful in carrying out a number of assessments and information mornings using Teams and Zoom, a range of virtual platforms, and all the usual resources that we have at our disposal. We've had virtual assessments, information mornings. We've had a lot of following up with keeping warm activities and communication to replace our usual day, induction day in July. Challenge, there are a number of them, as you can imagine, but the challenge is to ensure that the prospective students feel part of the college and not disconnected. Another challenge is timetabling and assigning groups and personal tutors. This is a challenge at the moment, but it's just getting to know, the students will get to know the staff through different means, and it's creating relationships early on. And these can take time, but one of the ways that we're going to be looking at that, we'll be looking to host a virtual open day or open week, and that hopefully will provide another opportunity for prospective and potential students and families to become familiar with who we are and what we do.
Thank you. Berkenshaw and Camp Hill colleges have developed a helpful tracker in the student-friendly booklet, which you can see the links here. Next question to Jake. Are face-to-face meetings happening at all? And are there aspects of transitioning into college that's working particularly well for you at Glasshouse College, Jake?
Yes, we are having face-to-face meetings with individual admissions, which has included visits to the sites and workshops. So it has been possible over the last 3 months due to the low level of our current students, which was just a handful of residential. So we were allowed to, we could social distance sufficiently. And it always, in my experience, it always proves more effective to meet the student in person. Often during the admissions process, the student wouldn't want to talk on the phone to someone they hadn't met, with a lot of our students with our profile. So being able to meet them face to face and being able to see facial expressions is has worked very well. We are also doing virtual assessments as part of that process, where a visit to the site is not necessary, such as functional skills, which would be done online anyway. And the speech and language assessments. In this case, the calls often seem to be more successful than video calls, because although seeing a face is useful, sometimes the unnatural nature of staring at someone's face constantly throughout a call can be very unnerving for a lot of our students. So in that case, phone calls have seemed to work better. We've developed a very robust process for gathering the aspiration and information ahead of the visits to make sure that any on-site visits are very focused and as relevant as possible to the student aspirations, just in order to, again, to both make sure it's a very enriched experience for the student, but also to minimise the risk and any unnecessary sort of visits to workshops where they may not have any interest. So we do tailor the experience to make sure that it's as safe as possible and as focused as possible. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Do you remember that if your assessment leads to the offer of a place, to set out a really, really clear transition plan, including all the details of support and equipment needs? This remains vital. I know we'd do this anyway, but I think at this time, it's even more vital that you've got that recorded. We're all under enormous pressure during this pandemic. So are the local authorities. And Jake's now going to tell us about Glasshouse's relationship with local authorities. To you,
So
Jake.
yeah, it's been a very mixed bag. Some have a lot of understanding with regards to the extra difficulties that the college faces, and also the students. We've had phone calls from some very good local authorities discussing how they're willing to delay EHCP annual reviews because the family wouldn't be able to access the appropriate technology, wouldn't be able to read the paperwork ahead of time, things like that, and they've been very understanding. Other local authorities have been a lot more stringent and have asked for lengthy daily updates, but it tends to sort of fit in with how these local authorities related to us before the lockdown as well. So, and it will be very interesting to see how agreeable they are to funding extensions or, supporting the students who have missed, a lot of face-to-face, especially in something. We have a very craft-based curriculum, so it's been especially difficult for a lot of our students to access this remotely, but we have been sending out craft packs and have been using daily contact in some instances in order to maintain this, the support for the students throughout this time.
Okay, thank you, Jay. We then move on to transition planning, where places have been agreed, and introducing learners to college life. Martin's going to explain how he's developed his approach as time's gone on and the learning points that he's encountered.
Thank you, Ruth. We have the college has really seen this as a time of streamlining, and there has been a slight element of opportunity. We have streamlined our information mornings. We've made them a lot punchier and accessible. The college has developed further links with local authorities. We have appointed a new admissions and EHCP manager who will be starting this week and take on this new approach and guide staff through that. It has been crucial to be flexible in how we contact. I can't say that enough. It's as Jacob was saying earlier, using the different modes of engaging students, tailoring, being so person-centered. One of the other things that we have developed even more, and still in the sort of stages of development, is a virtual tour of the college, which will, I'm sure, have long-lasting effects. We do have a number of short films on YouTube that can give a sense of what the Orpheus does, and through this virtual tour, it will, and films that we have, it can breed a degree of familiarity for new students prior to attending the college. I'll pretty much call it a graduated introduction, if you will. Back to you, Ruth.
Okay. The SENS College have developed resources to help introduce staff to new students, and also on using QR codes. So I do hope that you have the opportunity to have a look at some of these resources once the webinar has finished. Remember that you also may need to explain the use of PPE and social distancing and hygiene requirements in your individual settings and colleges. There are a number of resources available on the website to support you to do this. Before we leave this section, I'm just going to go back to Martin to ask if there are any lessons that you've learned that you'd like to share.
There is indeed, Ruth. I think the biggest lesson is to maintain the essence of what we do, and all organizations, not just our own, maintaining the essence through the virtual platform, if we can convey that. As an organization, we have prepared, we have presentations involving all departments, and having a trial run through that there as an organization, as the transition in service. It's about making sure that we are able to convey as simple a message in a small amount of time, It's about getting that message across quite succinctly. Picking up on what Jacob said earlier on, it's about getting those questions beforehand, typed in by the attendees, and then we can answer them at the end, as we're going to do today. If there was ever a time to be flexible and being open to adapting new systems, this is that time. Time to revise how we approach transition. Our students have learned much about resilience and change. They often know more about transition than we or they think. So it's celebrating just those small, what might be considered really small sort of achievements, celebrating that success throughout this here with the transitioning students, and just monitoring that the whole way, and really just keeping all the channels of communication open. Thank you, Ruth.
Thank you. I'm going to move on to transitioning out now of colleges and preparing for adulthood. Transitioning out of college began with ensuring that the transition plan, the HCP, is up to date and still relevant and possible. A pre-transition review can establish if extra support or changes are required. Communication is again key to success here, ensuring that if the young person, all the partners, all the contacts and the family are all then working towards a successful and effective transition. It is likely that changes will need to be made to the plans because obviously just in this situation, things are unlikely to be quite as planned. For this year's leavers, they'll also have missed out on the preparations for moving on, the celebrations, all the things that help them recognise that one period of their lives is finishing and another is beginning. We've suggested closure activities such as visual yearbooks, visual graduations and proms. After leaving college, we thought it was really important to carry out welfare checks and to continue that contact. Probably more contact than usual, also with other agencies, now working with your ex-students, offering outreach support and being available to parents and carers to help resolve issues relating to the transition process and settling into new settings. So, revisiting the transition plan. A pre-transition questionnaire is a great way of checking to review the HCP and identify any extra support that might be needed. A questionnaire has been developed and provided by Glasshouse College, and Jake will pick this up in a few minutes. Revisiting the transition processes and the paperwork, National Star College have developed a cover letter which accompanies lists of possible providers that's sent out to help families research the credentials of potential placements and to carry out their own research and shortlisting alongside the local authority input, and a transition tracker using a RAG rating. Orpheus College. Martin, do you want to pick this up? Can you tell me how you've been ensuring students have a quality end to their placement and achieve their EHCP expected outcomes?
Happy to, Ruth. Thank you very much. At the Orpheus, we believe in regular contact and review of PFA plans. PFA is preparing for adulthood. It's something that we developed, which the student takes ownership of. We ensure that there are really good links with parents. We have the tailored person-centered approach. Everything is led by students, and them feeding in, maintaining their plans, having an active part in getting their action points, which they can tick off, and it's just looking at that, their progress, themselves. They have another document, it's the next stage planner, which they would have been working on, for the last couple of years. And it's all being part of the process, and it's all about ownership, them directing exactly, where they need assistance, from the team. It's about keeping everything warm and focused at a pace that's good for the students, because this is a difficult enough time, and we don't want to force anything. It has to be led by the students. If they have more ownership, there's a better chance of success. We will attempt to have a graduation at a later date when the restrictions ease. They generally take place in the forthcoming academic year anyway, but it may well turn out that the graduation turns into a bigger celebration. Watch this space. The Orpheus is in a fortunate position in that we have a dedicated transition team that looks at all aspects of the PFA aspirations of the students. We work tirelessly to achieve the best outcomes for the transitioning students, as we have done as an organisation throughout our journey with them. And we, as a team, we meet on a weekly basis and review each of the PFA plans and how the rest of the team can fit into that process as well. So it's that constant review, working at a good pace, in a measured way, and needless to say, I'm sure everybody knows, but it's been led by the student at this time. Thank you, Ruth.
Thank you. And to Jake, what are the biggest challenges and hurdles transitioning out of Glasshouse College at this time?
Well, obviously there are many challenges to the process at the moment. The uncertainty in all aspects of life is probably the biggest one, because that especially affects a lot of our students. Many of whom really struggle if they aren't given a sort of firm plan of what will happen. So transition visits have been largely impossible. Obviously things are opening a little bit now, but the last 3 months they haven't really been possible. And considering that we have a lot of students who struggle to conceptualize from pictures or descriptions, and they very much need to see a place to imagine, and to imagine the effects of such a large change to their life as well, moving to another place and not returning to this place that they may have been at for 3 years and got used to. So it's very hard to sort of make concrete progress with students that didn't have a firm transition place in decided before the pandemic. Even where they did, there's no guarantee that that destination is now ready to take them at the same time which they had agreed to previously. They may be closed, they may be waiting to return current members before they'll accept new ones. And there's all sorts of things like that to try and work out before you can move the student on, and trying to find a new aspirational transition as well. If they've changed their aspiration during the lockdown, they may have found a new hobby, or they may have decided they don't want to go to this other place because of new concerns. And there's no certainty with that. They can't meet the future staff. It's very important to identify the strong relationships that students have with current staff and trying to mirror those where possible in their new transition destination. And without being able to meet those staff ahead of time, it makes it a lot more difficult. Obviously, there are calls. As I said previously, sometimes students refuse to talk to new members of staff. I've had that where new students will not talk to me until they've met me. So it's trying to sort of engineer interesting ways of working around that. So that has been hard, but obviously, necessity is the mother of invention. So anyway, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Jake. At Birkenshaw College, they've developed a transition booklet, My Transition Booklet. So that's been provided by Birkenshaw if you'd like to have a look at that. It's just ensuring that the transition processes remain as effective as possible, and also engaging parents and carers in conversations whilst learners transition remotely. Achieving closure for students. Moving on to closure for students, I'm going to hand over to Martin and Jake to tell you about the lessons learned at Orpheus and Glasshouse. Martin, are there any lessons learned that you could share?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely lessons. Getting familiar with Zoom and Teams, is definitely, I think, something that we've all had to have a baptism of fire with. So brushing up on your IT skills. That aside, I mean, we have a robust transition service that we've had in place for a number of years. I can't say enough that having a service that's dedicated in place has really helped, work at the college. I think the lessons learned, are the lessons that we might maintain as well, which I would like to impart. And it's just developing links with housing providers, throughout the year, enter into discussions with parents and students, check in with the students to ensure that they are happy with progress. Ensure that the students are well prepared and informed in the decision-making process. When they own their future, as I said before, that they've been working towards in the college, which promoting self-advocacy, then that seamless transition can occur. It's just the familiarization with the idea of transition, if that can be embedded, at an early stage, so it doesn't come as a major surprise. This has helped massively, with the work that we do at the college. Lessons learned, we have the virtual assessments, as mentioned, the virtual tours. We've had virtual tours with housing providers, with transitioning students, with social workers and parents and carers. Potential support workers have been involved in as well. So it's that getting familiar with other staff that the student or the transitioning individual may get to know. It really is, I can't say it enough, it's about using all those resources around you, using, the booklet, any of the information that is on this website. There's just a lot of people who have been working in this field for so long that have a rough idea about what we're talking about, and I think it's just, use all those resources. You may see some things on there, you mightn't have thought of, which may prove as a vital tool, in time. Thank you, Ruth.
Okay, and Jake, aspects that perhaps are working particularly well, what would you like to tell us about?
We've, just to echo what Martin said, it's a flexibility of approach that has worked really well. The way our college works is we have the key member of staff. We've been having a lot of contact with our students to support them during this time. We've been very much focusing on maintaining mental health because we're very aware that as well as this being a difficult time for the student, it's very difficult for the parents. They are taking on a lot of the responsibility that would have been passed to the college throughout the day, and that has to be and sometimes you have to vocalize that to the parents and really show that you do understand the support that they're giving and appreciate it, and you support them as much as the students with regards to anything that they may need. Some of our students I talk to daily, and it may be the same conversation about the transition, but they need this comfort of knowing what will happen, as much as I can give them any certainty. But they need to this repetition so that they know that things are still moving forwards. They know that the plan hasn't changed. And sometimes that's enough, just a 5-minute conversation, 10 minutes a day, just to reiterate that their future is still very much in the college's sights, and that has really helped. And that also helps to maintain the relationship between the college and the parents or the carers, which is very important as well. So yeah, just as much contact as you can have, and making it flexible for those, just making sure that the contact is flexible around their time, their preferred method of contact, just so that they don't feel isolated, really.
Thank you. Thank you. I think it's just worth me saying really that the colleagues working on this transition project and developing these resources and processes have found that actually it's helped refine those things for them too. So it's been a bit of a win-win really. In terms of post-transition, it'll be more important than ever to review the effectiveness of the transition support for this year's learners. And Martin's going to tell us what this looks like for his leavers.
I'm at the Orpheus College, and it's been in existence for a number of years, certainly since I've been there. The college offers a 6-month post-transition service as standard. We're very fortunate, and we've modified this, we've streamlined it over the years. This will, of course, with the 6 months, of course, in the current situation, we're going to be really flexible. That word seems to be, being used quite a few times today, but it is just really about that patience, the flexibility, measured approach, because our students are, like many of us, very, very sensitive, with their emotional intelligence. They know that this is a difficult time, but I have seen so many students rise, through this. Anyway, yeah, and it will be the dedicated service that we offer. We review their progress, throughout that time, when they move on. Even with the service at the moment, we have almost secured half of the students moving into their new properties, and we're just waiting on some funding. We're still carrying on the transition process, and that will continue until their aspirations are met as much as we possibly can. Funding, sort of like, hopefully that we get that in place as well. Some things, are out of our hands. But essentially what we do have in our hands are the students, and it will be the constant reviewing of their PFA plans that we have, monitoring the progress with their new housing provider, support provider, if they return home, just maintaining links with the parents, if there's anything that we can assist along the way with, we will. And even at the end of that we have exit interview questionnaires, which is like a final review, and it focuses on how we can improve the service if any have those outcomes been met. And we have lots of opportunities for the students at the college post-transition. We have musical theatre classes they can attend. We have the Thessaly Theatre Group, which focuses on disability awareness, so it's utilising the skills. We have film clubs, we have alumni ambassadors. A lot of our students will go on and do their own thing, but there are opportunities to utilise some of the skills that they have there. And I say 6 months, that's how long the service is, but I'm sure a lot of people, find that when they know an organisation, they come to different performances, they feed in, they help, they raise money for charity. Nobody really sort of says goodbye to Orpheus unless they really want to, and that's often through their own doing. But formally, we will be in contact, for, between 6 months, and probably with the COVID, we're going to have a degree of flexibility on how long we sort of maintain that contact, and that'll be through the different media that we have at the moment. Yeah, so I think that's me.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Ruth.
That brings us to the end of the transition section. Are there any questions?
Hi Ruth, I've got a question for Martin from Diana Mountain, who would like to know, is the 6 months post-college service paid for by education authorities?
It's not. It's privately funded by a number of different sources.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Dan.
Okay. Thank you, Jake. Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Jana.
I can't see any other questions at this. I think you've stunned them into silence with your amazing.
Okay. I just want to come back to those resources. I do hope people, take the time, have a look at them. Don't forget, don't just say, oh, that's not right for my student group or for our college. They are there with perhaps the intention that everybody will have to tweak things to make them fit. But there's lots of things there. The other webinars will be up on the YouTube channel, on the Natspec YouTube channel, so you can take full use of that. And just a reminder, going right back to the very beginning, that the easy access to the resources is at the bottom of the home page, unless you want to go through the section and get the words too. But if you want to go directly to the resources, just go to the bottom. And you also have the search box. Thank you, Ella. So, okay. I hope this was of benefit, and good luck. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Oh,
you.
sorry, Ruth, we've actually got some late questions coming through.
All right. Okay. Okay. That's fine.
We've got lots of thank yous from Samantha Pratt. Thank you. Very interesting and informative from Karis Jones. Oh, and Sarah Powell and Helen Mills also saying thank you. So just showing their appreciation before we go.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you to everybody. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
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 Bye-bye.